From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm John Kennedy. Edmonton MP Randy Boissonnault is leaving his post as Employment Minister in Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's cabinet due to the unsteady claims around his Indigenous identity and business dealings. The Prime Minister's office says Justin Trudeau and Boissonnault have agreed that Boissonnault will step away effective immediately and work on clearing the allegations made against him. The National Post raised questions about Boissonnault's past claims of Indigenous heritage. He previously refers to himself as a non-status adopted Cree from Alberta, with his great-grandmother being a full-blooded Cree woman. He has since apologized for his shifting claims. The Canadian Embassy in Ukraine is closed to the public today. The Global Affairs Canada says in-person services at the embassy are temporarily suspended after the U.S. warned of potential significant air attacks by Russia in Kyiv. It could be in response to the U.S. government giving the green light for Kyiv to strike Russian targets and use anti-personnel mines. But Ukraine's intelligence agency has accused Russia of spreading fake messages about the threat of an extremely massive attack on Ukrainian cities and is urging people not to panic. The U.S. also closed its embassy today. Ontario Premier Doug Ford says all provincial and territorial premiers are aligned on his push for the federal government to negotiate a bilateral trade deal with the United States. Ford is the current chair of the group of Canada's 13 premiers and says they had a call today with a clear consensus that the country needs a separate agreement with the U.S. and Mexico.
All the premiers. We know Mexico is bringing in cheap Chinese parts, slapping made in Mexico stickers on, shipping it up through the U.S. and Canada, causing American jobs to be lost and Canadian jobs. We want fair trade.
The premiers are calling for a meeting with the Prime Minister and his officials to discuss the idea. Hurricane-force winds have slammed parts of BC's coast as a massive storm swirling off Vancouver Island severed highways and cut power to more than 200,000 people overnight. BC Hydro's Ted Olenek says the high winds sometimes hampered crews' efforts to try and restore power.
And certainly if the winds are blowing too strong, we're not going to put crews in harm's way. It's still very dangerous out there. Large branches are flying and falling down. We don't want to put crews in an area where they could potentially be injured.
There were 95,000 customers without power as of this morning. Former members of One Direction gathered at St. Mary's Church northwest of London for the funeral of bandmate Liam Payne. Harry Styles, Zayn Malik, Niall Horan, and Louis Tomlinson joined friends and family at the service for the 31-year-old Payne, who died in Buenos Aires last month after falling from his hotel balcony. Payne is survived by his 7-year-old son Bear, who he fathered with singer Cheryl Tweedy. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, the BC Lions have fired head coach and co-general manager Rick Campbell. The Lions have also named co-general manager Neil McAvoy the vice president of football operations and promoted assistant general manager Ryan Rigmaiden to GM. The move comes after a disappointing 9-9 season with a loss in the West semifinal in a year Vancouver hosted the Grey Cup. The Toronto Maple Leafs will be down another forward when they host the Vegas Golden Knights. The Leafs say Max Domi has been placed on injured reserve with a lower body injury. Toronto now has 5 forwards on the IR, including captain Austin Matthews, while Ryan Reeves starts a 5-game suspension tonight. Canada is out of the Davis Cup men's tennis tournament after a 2-0 quarterfinal loss to Germany in Spain today. Daniel Altmaier started with a straight-set win over Montreal's Gabriel Diallo. Jan-Leonard Struff clinched a tie with a 3-set win over Denis Shapovalov of Richmond Hill, Ontario. From the Canadian Press, I'm John Kennedy.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.